It's working. Is it working? Hello, 1, 2. Yes, I think it's working. It doesn't matter if it isn't. Well, we haven't got a... What is it? It's the 12th. Vietnam, 12th of December 2000. And I'll just basically take you through the idea. Basically, we do an interview. I transcribe it. I send a copy to you. You amend it. I come back again. We clean it up and we keep that going until you're happy with what's said. That's it. The book's called Speak for Yourself, and essentially, hopefully, that's what everybody's going to think they're doing. This Terry's still working. I don't want to show it you because I don't want anybody to be influenced by anybody else. I'm not setting anybody up so they all sound different. If somebody's got a recollection, somebody else has got a recollection and they differ, one of my points is that when we're dealing with histories, we must be careful that we take into account that we're dealing with people's memories, and that perhaps the idea isn't to get something called the proper account, whatever that is. Perhaps the idea is to collect accounts and see, what you get. Having said that, I haven't had any yet, but no, not real, no real contradictions. No. So, Pete, bass player, never played anything else, never had, always wanted to be. Okay, when did you start on the bass?
Well,
not professionally, but when did you go from not having one to having one?
About 1960, I would say.
How old
got
did
a
you
bass
be then?
guitar.
How old did you be then? 16?
Yeah, 16. I think I got one when I was 16, yeah.
Okay, bass guitar when you were 16. So it's the first instrument you ever owned?
Yeah, so I just was delighted to, I just wanted to play the bass,
Okay, so this is a good place to start to go back to. Musical memories pre to 16. Young ones, say with your mum or whatever. What are your memories of music, as music, say, in your environment, in your house? Or?
Well, it's like what you always read. It's the Lonnie Donegan records, isn't it? The Buddy Holly records were a major influence. Buddy Holly's playing in the kitchen now, still listen to the old Buddy Holly stuff,
So nobody older in the house than you? You're the oldest?
I was the oldest son, yeah.
Okay, but did it just start with listening to pop records, such as they were, or did you get it off the radio, TV?
The radio, the TV, yeah. The Jack Jackson's show on the radio. Radio on the television. Radio Luxembourg.
Right.
And early Elvis records coming on Luxembourg and things like that,
So you remember recordings from the radio?
Yeah.
And this will be in your teenage years?
Oh, yeah. In my very early teenage years as well, when I was still in the 5th form at grammar school, the 4th form, started listening to Lonnie Donegan, who had appeared on radio shows and television shows.
Right.
And then, of course, the AFM and Luxembourg started to be able to picked up on the radios. Because my dad was very good at things like that. He always got onto the latest things, when we were kids. Right. And I was dead fortunate. There was always music being played in our house. My mother always had music. She was an avid listener. She collected 78s.
Yeah.
She had a huge collection of records, and she liked people like Nat King Cole, Johnny Mathis, black ballad singers.
This would be before your teenage years? Is this?
No, this would be going back. I would say from when I started secondary school. When I started grammar school.
Yeah, so in the mid-50s.
As soon as I started secondary school, I came out of junior school and went into to the grammar school. That's when music started to really interest me.
Did you have a record player before then?
Oh yes, always had a record player.
And
yes.
The collector was your mum?
The collector was my mum up until I was about 13 or 14, and I bought Rock Island Line.
Right, that's good. Okay.
And then I started buying records like, what little kids would, at that time would buy, like, who was the guy that's... I always bought the American version. Guy Mitchell singing the blues.
Yeah, that kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Frankie Lane, people like that.
Oh, that's...
What about...
No, I never bothered with people like Frankie Lane and that. My mum was into, like, that kind of thing. When you came home from school, like, in the evening, Dickie Valentine would be on the radio and all that,
Yeah.
And even to this day, that coming home with that the light program constantly on in our house all the time,
Yeah.
has helped me because playing in functions bands now, don't get me wrong, I can't bust them by any means, all of them, not at all. But I have a very good knowledge of all the standards, you know what I mean?
How they go, yeah, because of this.
Because of this, like, constant going into my head.
I know
from
exactly
my mother.
what you mean.
You know, I know them. In fact...
What about programs like Two-Way Family Favourites?
Yes, absolutely. Constantly,
Sunday
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Music while you work, do you remember things like that?
I do, absolutely,
as a
yes.
child, yeah.
As a child, my mother had the radio on constantly.
That's what I wanted you to say.
My mother was a major influence. Now,
my mother did as well, you see.
People would think that in my family it would be my father's side, which would, because my grandmother, my dad's mother, was a chorus girl and a musician. She was a professional chorus girl and a musician.
Great,
and you know, to this day, I never have the guts to go into Tarby's dressing room and say to him, "Your mother and my grandmother were friends because they were chorus girls together." You know, and I don't say anything because Tarby's like he's like Billy Butler. You know, there's a you know, you know, he knows where he is. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
In the pecking order. So, like he. You know, I work for Tarby. I have done for 15 years, so I'm his hired hand hod carrier. You know,
yeah, right. I know. Yeah.
So he's the architect. You know, and,
but it's an interesting point, actually.
Yes, it's a small world, isn't it?
Oh yeah, not half. Yeah.
But the major.
How about your dad going in the merch? Did he bring stuff home, please? I mean, there is the story, isn't there? The Liverpool merchant brought home records and all that.
My dad used to say. It's funny this, because my dad went to sea during the war, was in the convoys. Yeah. He went to sea as a young man, right out of his apprenticeship.
As you would in Liverpool, yeah.
Right onto the ships, and he was away at sea all through the war. Yeah. When I was born, and Anne was born, my sister, my father quit the sea. Came shoreside. When we'd grown up and become, you know,
individuals.
Independent, sort of, he went back to sea then.
Oh, right.
So I missed it in my formative years. I missed that influence of my father going and getting records from the States, which would have been fantastic, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
because I used to listen to these records on Luxembourg going, where can I buy this? Where can I get this mystery train? That's all right, Mama, you know what I mean? Things like The Girl Can't Help It, you know, I mean, well, that's a point. They were major. I lived in Penny Lane. And round there, I know that's where the Beatles were spawned, and I know that's a perfectly natural thing because around that area it was wonderful. You weren't too oppressed by the yob gangs, you know, the teddy boy lunatics brutality thing, and you weren't oppressed by the middle class closed mind.
Slightly further out.
Yes, it was just a little oasis of a couple of miles round Penny Lane,
where
fellas could
Lane?
get into music, you know.
How old? Up to when?
I lived there till I was about 16, 17.
Okay,
and then I moved down to Chilwell Valley.
In
where
Penny Lane itself?
I lived off Penny Lane in Ashdale Road,
Okay,
we called the area Penny Lane.
Yeah, right. Is that where you were born?
No, I was born in Bootle. I was born down by the docks in Bootle. But I immediately, I was born there and then shipped out.
So you're a North End lad, really?
Yeah, all my family's from the North End.
Right, okay.
Nettie's grandparents and parents and my grandparents' parents lived within half a mile of each other.
Oh, right, okay.
That's a small world, you see.
Yeah, okay. So we've got that. I'll do, please. That's enough up to there. So I've got enough information there up to the base.
I'd like to mention that, a major influence when I was young to such an extent was Buddy Holly.
Really?
Holly was. I lived for a fanatical.
Holly knew.
I was a fanatical Buddy Holly man.
Okay.
When I was a kid, until I met fellas like you who taught and I
saw
the black music.
It's the first album I ever bought was the Chirping Crickets.
Yes.
That's the first album I ever bought. The one with the very blue sky. Wonderful. And the haircuts.
Oh, wonderful.
The haircuts.
Yes.
And every track was a masterpiece.
Oh, wonderful.
We were kids.
Yeah,
right. Okay. So we've got you getting us a bass. You remember what it was, Pete?
Yeah, Hofner President bass or
Blonde.
senator or president, I can't remember.
Okay, so
You'll have to look that up. I'll find out for you.
Photo of it.
There's a photo of it on the wall there.
Yeah, I've got that photo.
You took it?
Yes, I got it. So I've got another one. I've got to give you the other one. Okay, you got a Hoffman, and you started. How long did you have it before you got your first gig? I've got to be just to put myself in it, if I can help it in this book. It's very difficult, but I've got to try and keep out of it. Okay, when did you start playing?
But you can't. In my life, you can't. It's impossible.
Well, I know early on it's ridiculous, isn't it? Yeah.
You know.
Okay. When did you start
I was
playing?
playing it for years, Bob. Years and years. It was like something that I came home to and did. And no one ever showed me how to tune the damn thing or anything. I did it all by myself.
Right, okay. Now, I met you in the Chilwell Five Ways.
That's correct.
I can't remember the year, it must have been around 1964, something like around there. 63, 64, something like that. And you were known, I'm not quite sure about this, but was it Chris that knew you could play?
No, it was a friend of Chris's who was just a kid.
Yeah.
A kid on the block, you know what I mean? And he knew that I had a bass guitar. Now, I'm not sure how he arrived at this. I couldn't tell you, but that was how it came about. He knew me,
right,
and he knew Chris, and that was it.
Right, okay.
Because my mates and I, what happened was, we were from Penny Lane, but they used to come to my house in Chilwell Valley. So the first stop would be the Chilwell Five Ways.
The bar.
The bar in the Chilwell Five Ways, because that's where we would go
to have a drink
before we went on. Oh no, we started that's another dead important feature in my life. Across the road on Queen's Drive here. Right. Was now this is important.
The dance place.
This is important to me. When I was a kid, there was still that separation between Catholics and Protestants when I was a kid.
Okay. Yes, I can remember.
And
this.
Catholic boys, particularly Catholic grammar school boys, had their own little things. And one was the CI in Sandfield Park, the Catholic Institute.
No, yeah.
Which is where we used to go.
Yeah.
And the other one...
And that was attached to St. Eddie's.
St. Edward's is right, yeah. And the other one was across the road here on Queen's Drive, which is called Christ the King's Youth Club.
That's right. Now, the dance
and
there.
That's when my life changed, yeah.
Oh, right.
That's when it changed for me.
How old did you be?
I'd heard a band on Smithdown Road playing live, and we had a little club underneath the... it's called the Fitwell House now, on the corner of Smithdown Road and Crawford Avenue.
Who's had the little club?
There was a little club called the Coffee Club, and I heard my first live group.
Right, okay.
That's when I heard my first bass guitar.
No, 16. I might have been.
Oh no, just some guy like banging away in a group.
Right, okay.
And this had fascinated me. I'd gone away, and I was in like a world of my own for like
Was this before you got the bass or after?
This is before I got the bass.
Oh, right,
this is what turned me on to it.
Okay, so good. So this will be quite early.
Oh, this was like a massive leap. This.
Right. Okay.
And I know I was very, very young, Bob, because I was still at school, and I'd had to borrow my dad's shoes, which is an old family joke, to go and see Dracula on the Allerton Odeon.
I was about to be dad's Mac to try and get in the exit.
So I'd gone to see Dracula at that period of time to see
Christopher Lee.
Christopher Lee as Dracula, right?
Yes, I remember.
Now, from then, we used to go to this little place called the Coffee Club. It's under what's called Fitwell House on the corner of Crawford Avenue and Smithdown Road.
Okay.
And I heard this group, they got a group on one night, I couldn't believe it, this guy's playing this bloody thing. I was just absolutely transfixed, I couldn't believe it. I stood there, I couldn't get over it, I was in a dream for weeks.
Yeah, love the idea, immediately took to it. And was it the bass?
Oh, it was instantly hit me in the chest and just completely took me.
And there were guitar players playing in the band?
Yeah, there was two guitar, in those days, lead guitar, rhythm guitar,
bass
drums. And a lead singer.
And you saw the bass and that was it?
And it was some group like Oggy and the Flintstones or something like that.
Yes.
Really. So anyway, the time comes then I start going to Christ the King's Youth Club.
Right.
And the one in Sandfield Park at the CI. Now the group on the resident band on a Friday night was crap to me. I didn't like them. They were awful. They called the Delicados, and they were terrible.
Yeah.
But they said, oh, well, we got this other Sunday night gig. We can go to see this other band playing. And I went to this one across the road, Preston, and I walked in, and it just knocked me out.
Who was
and
it?
It was Lance Railton, Wally
Shepherd, Dave Gore,
yeah. Richie Galvin,
yeah,
and
was it Tucker?
No, it was the guy before Carl Terry.
Johnny,
the guy that died, yeah.
Johnny Tempest.
That's and
right.
The Tempest Tornadoes.
God,
it's absolutely fantastic.
The harmony guitar group.
Fantastic it was. Just knocked me out. Well, that was it then. I just went every week and watched their show.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Right.
Fantastic.
Well,
and they were major first adolescent massive influences.
And they'd be the same age.
So then I got a job as an office boy on Dale Street.
Yeah, I remember. Well,
this is before I met you. Right?
I remember you were working in an office.
I got an office job as an office boy on Dale Street, and one day the guy the head clerk played drums in a group, and he was Fred Marsden in the Pacemakers. You see,
brother, right? Okay.
And he became a big influence on me because you say, I'm playing, we do gigs. And I was knocked out. So on the night time, I used to go and see them, right?
Yeah.
And I go to the Dovedale Towers to see them, and I go to the Hollyoak, all around Penny Lane. Never moved away from Penny Lane.
Okay, fine.
I used to get the 79, was to get me back to where I belonged. You know what I mean?
I know the bus routes.
And Fred was my boss. He was my senior clerk.
Funny, just to interject, you call it Chilwell Valley, don't you? I always call it Belvale.
Yeah, Belvale, yeah.
It was Belvale then.
Yeah.
Before they built up the estate.
Yes.
There was just these small, because between you and the valley, to me, there was loads of prefab. They hadn't...
The prefabs, when they pulled the prefabs down and built the houses there, that's when they moved me down there.
Yeah. Anyway, so you're watching Fred Marsden.
Yeah. Now, here's where I go wrong here. I can't remember whether Fred turned professional with the Pacemakers to do the afternoon shows at the Cavern, or whether he couldn't have possibly kept his job.
What year is this?
We're talking about 61, aren't we?
Well, 1961. One of the guys in their band was what was his name?
Les Chadwick.
Les Chadwick. Oh, I went to school with.
That's right.
In 1961, I stayed with them, the band, in Hamburg.
Oh, well, he'd
so
already turned
he must
pro
have turned pro then.
Anyway,
he's 61 and he's pro, so this would be like...
This is another major thing. Now, this
Did you have an instrument by this time, Pete?
Yeah, I think I did, yeah. Well, my mum bought me the instrument when I left school. At 16. I would have been 17 now.
That's right, 1961. Yeah, okay,
would that be right?
Around about there, yeah.
Well, I can't be sure on
That's
years,
good. Doesn't matter. It's around about that.
I started... you said you did these lunchtime sessions at the Cavern, which is just round the corner from where I worked. So
yeah,
I started going round there.
Yes,
and they were on a Tuesday and a Thursday.
Yeah,
and there was this other band playing on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Yeah, yeah.
So this guy says to me, one of the factory boys said to me, "Check this out. I've got this album. Listen to this guy." And I was knocked out, Carl Perkins. Yeah. Well, I hadn't really been into Carl Perkins because I'd only heard the mainstream guys like Elvis, Buddy Holly, Eddie Cochran, etc.
Yeah.
And then I locked onto this.
And he was a bit marginal, wasn't he?
He was a bit marginal, yeah. And I just loved this.
It was it was much better than the other stuff because it had loading guitar playing on it, didn't it? And and you could recognise what they were doing. It was like Skiffle, only better.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So it was the dance album, by the way, the classic
Carl
Perkins dance album.
Yeah.
Played it, Honey Don't, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Constant, over and over. And this guy says to me, "You know, when you go to see the Pacemakers, there's this other band, there's a couple of Carl Perkins numbers, you know, and that's when I started going to see the Beatles.
Yeah.
Now, embarrassingly, kids come to me now and want me. I have been teaching a Beatles tune tonight, and I've had to ask the kid to get it taped so I can learn it
No.
to teach her, because I have no Beatles records.
Like myself.
Because I was never a part of that massive, wonderful... Coterie, yes, it's a good word, yes.
Well, I reckon you and I must have seen them 500 times.
But I have to be naff. I loved them in those early days.
So
they
did
were
special.
Fabulous. They were fabulous.
Oh, yeah.
And when I went in and I heard them doing like these Carl Perkins songs, then they started doing this, which turned out to be early Tamla stuff.
Yes.
You know,
the Arthur Alexander and all the rest of it. Tell me, let me ask you a musical question. It's do you reckon? I'll be leading you here, Peter. It won't appear in the article as a lead, but I reckon when we were younger that we didn't the production of new material, LP material, wasn't like it is now. A new album came out every 3 months or 4 months, and you had time to consider what you were going to buy and go out and buy, because you didn't have all that much money. You weren't totally loaded, and we didn't think in those terms of buying a million albums. And when you did buy an album, like the Buddy Holly album and the Carl Perkins album, you absorbed the whole thing, lyrical content. You could sing the solos.
Yes.
Now I want to ask you something, because you teach now. I reckon that was a great help when we were young, because we knew what the band was supposed to sound like, even though we played individual instruments, which is, I suggest, is different now. You know, we seem to have learned, we seem to have a subject to discuss musically when we started playing. Do you know the type of thing I mean?
Yeah. I'm dismayed and surprised by today's youth culture, because they've got it all laid on for them and nothing's happening.
Well, yeah, the thing I say is, I don't know which of you'd endorse this opinion, but people say, oh, you know, the black American influence and all that. For me, it's vanished. I don't hear it.
And
now.
what a great tragedy.
Yeah,
what a great tragedy.
The black thing is like the white stole it, I say.
Well,
my reply to that is, I wish we had. You know, where is it? Where is the white Ray Charles? Where is the white
it's
Charlie
so sad.
Parker?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know we're middle-aged men looking backwards and saying, oh, God, and moaning about it. But, like today, my department's head at Glacier.com said, I'll have to leave you now, Peter. I've got a rap class. And there was 30 young kids in gym slips and school sheds having their rap lesson. You see, it's all he can do to get them, to encourage them to use their minds in, like, on meter and recite things and try and produce some kind of poetry.
Yeah, right.
And I went, oh God, you know what I mean? Now I teach, a couple of dozen kids might go through my hands in a year.
Yeah.
And like 2 or 3 of them will be able to
Put
play
4 bars together.
the bass guitar to a way where I would say, yeah, that's all right, that sounds good, that.
Yeah, no, it's exactly the same.
It's so soul-destroying now, in a way, and yet they've got so much.
Okay, we've got the sort of background there, and you're seeing bands in the Penny Lane area, you're at the cabin doing the lunchtime sessions. So, you'd obviously been, what's the word, inspired by all this, so you must be practicing away, and then you meet me, presumably, in Chilwell.
There was a few milestones, like the Chuck Berry Carl Perkins concert that came to Liverpool. I think they did the Odeon in London Road.
That's right, and that was
I was there.
Bobby Thompson and
I was there.
That was King Size backing him.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, right. Okay. I can remember that.
I did all the concerts at that time that were of any value.
Yeah.
I saw Little Richard. I saw Jerry Lee Lewis. I saw Gene Vincent.
You saw Eddie Cobb and Gene Vincent thing?
No, I saw Gene Vincent at the Tower on his own. I didn't see him with Eddie Cochran. No, I never saw that road show. No, I never went to that.
So you were going to the cabin, going to see bands, going to the shows that were coming to Liverpool. Would you say, retrospectively, that this had started to interfere with your schoolwork?
Oh, it totally wrecked my school career.
Okay.
I couldn't. it's totally devastated my school career. That, and I think the fact that we moved, that the move was quite traumatic to me. The move from the world I told you, this
the middle of everywhere,
this wonderful world I lived in, which to the wilds.
Because it was like being a woolly back, wasn't it? It was so far out there.
It was, yes. And and then my father went back to sea.
Right.
So I'm left with my poor old mother and my sister, who buggered off to London when she was 18.
Right.
And of course my school career was a disaster, you know.
So like a lot of us, you were affected. The adverse effect of music was that it destroyed your school academic career. So you ended up working after school you went to work in an office.
Yes.
And then, but of course that didn't last long
because it was a dead end job.
Yeah.
And I was doing this dead end job and going to gigs constantly. All my wages went on going to live music gigs.
Right.
The big three at the Samson and Barlow's in London Road.
Yeah.
The Beatles on the Cavern. The shows at the Tower.
Yeah.
The bands, the rock and roll bands on the Hollyoak. You know them from Fallon right there. Yeah. I saw every major Liverpool Merseybeat band, and spent the whole time of the Merseybeat era, which wasn't very long really, being a punter going around watching all these bands. So
this was changed in '64, wasn't it? It was '64.
Well, when I met you, that was the complete change in my world, because...
When was that? Was it 64?
You said you started laying all these race records on me. And it was just wonderful, like I was reborn again. It was like another major stepping stone was meeting you.
Right.
A major, absolute, for the history books, this guy was a major influence in my life.
I don't care
what you do or say about me and hate me or anything, you'll never take that away.
Okay.
Never take it away from me.
Because I think I can empathise it, because I was enthusiastic. Impossible. I was more enthusiastic than anybody.
But you knew about the blues. I knew nothing about the blues, and you started laying all these things on me, and just absolutely tremendous.
Okay, so I think this was '64. I'm not sure.
Was it? It was after. It was post Merseybeat. So all you need to do is look up in your anorak books, Spencer Lee books, when Merseybeat actually petered out.
That's right.
That's when we got together, post Merseybeat.
That's right. So, and we started in the first band, which was T.O.'s Groundhogs. Was that the first band?
Yeah, that was the best, the first and the best.
Okay, the first and the best. And, okay, you can take me through this. We were doing Chuck Berry material.
Chuck Berry. T-Bone Walker, yeah. That kind of rolling type thing, yeah. We were doing standard sort of blues. I've got, Andy Parker wanted a list of the numbers we did. He was hoping to do some kind of...
That's right, Merseybeat thing.
I don't know, Bob, about...
Yeah.
I said, I've got a list of all the numbers. I still have a list of all the numbers.
You have to dig that out for us, please.
I don't know if I can dig it out right away.
No, it's all right. I'll come back to you on this, or I'll write to you. These take months to get right, these please. I'm not doing a Spencer, whatever his name is. No. This is research material.
We're researching now.
Yeah.
There you are, buddy.
Let's have a look.
Let me have my glasses on, hang on a minute. You'll know this program. This is the Bob Hardy band. I mean, to me, there's Bob Hardy. Then there's the Bob Hardy fix.
Yeah.
Then there's the ousting of Bob Hardy.
Yes. And
there's the Eddie Cave fix.
Yeah, that's right.
Then that's all gone, and then there's the Steve Aldo and the soul band.
Yeah.
LR.
Well, let's have a look at these, please.
Yeah.
Let's have a look. My God. Sacco, Caledonia. Get on the right track, baby. I'll go crazy. Feel so bad. Need your loving.
Now you can see the way sneaking into the thing was the James Brown influence started to come in.
Yeah, right.
I'll Go Crazy.
Yeah.
Right. There's your influence. Caledonia, you loved that.
Yeah. Get on the right track.
I'll show
particular
you
place.
all your songs there.
Sounds
that you
Get Tougher Than
picked.
Tough,
Yeah.
Backdoor Blues, Bright
I
Light.
love this period.
Yeah.
This was the wonderful period in your house when we spent that wonderful idyllic fortnight getting a band together. Do you remember that?
I can. Can you do me a favour? Can I borrow this for a week?
Only if you guard it with your life.
Oh, so
hey, look,
Jack
just shows you. Look, it just shows you how far I've been supporting that bloody club.
Yes, and your big mistake, Pete. Okay, so I've got that's great. I can archive that, make a copy of that. Now then, so your first playing job, then, if we can call it that, because that's what we thought we were doing, working for a living, was
I packed up my job on your behest, and we started.
That's right.
Doing it. But we were in a fantastic position compared to kids today who sign on the dole and wait to try and get a bloody recording deal or something. Yeah. We were working all the time.
It's ridiculous. I've got the story.
We were residents of the Cavern. Bob, I want to put this on record. I feel that the record of our appearances on the Cavern has been badly misrepresented by someone. Because I seem to think of us being on the bloody Cavern day and night, month in and month out.
Yes, so do I.
And yet it's not registered.
They've got us in the book.
The seller, best of sellers.
It's got us on about 40 times, I think, during that period.
Well, I'm in big trouble because I'm quoted on Pete Frame's Family Trees as saying they played I think we played the Cavern
more times. Yeah.
Which now that's a lesson I learned. I was in the green room, the Philharmonic Hall, with all the top boys, and I was buzzing, and I made that mistake. I exaggerated, and it's gone down in historic annals. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it seemed like that. We did play a lot. I'll put that in.
Oh man, we played, and I also Fred remembers, like Freddie Lloyd, my oppo, who does a lot of gigs with me. He remembers us doing a little residency there once, him and me and Dave Irving.
Yeah. At the Cavern.
Yeah. For a few weeks when Alf Gagan owned his upstairs.
That's right. When would that be?
Oh God, I don't know. Fred's got memory. It's terrible. I reckon it would have been about the time of the Clayton Squares. Just prefix.
Yeah. It's difficult to put the... Anyway, let's get on with this.
All right, go on.
So, we're playing away, and we've got a band, TL's Groundhogs, the name of which is changed to TL's Bluesicians on the night that we played with John Lee Hooker, because his band was the Groundhogs.
And we had to do a quick turnaround and change our names, yes.
That's right, and I can remember sitting with Tony Lavon and going through the books and finding Sammy Price's Bluesicians and going, that'll do, Sammy Price, that'll do. So the name was the Bluesicians. Oh, so God. We go through a number of changes until eventually we settle on a band which included Albie Donnelly on saxophone, Dave Irving on drums, and we go through a couple of managers, don't we? One of them was a black guy. We actually had a black manager when
Glad Murray.
When having sort of black associates wasn't fashionable.
Well, this was the period when I'm talking about the dead formative period when we in Withnell Road.
That's right, yeah.
And it was fantastic.
And we played a lot in the South End, didn't we?
We did. We did the Nigerian Social Club,
That's
and
right.
we did. We didn't do the Gladray. People think we didn't. I don't think we played the Gladray.
I can't remember. We played a couple.
We did a couple of clubs around that area.
Because Gladdy's from Granby.
Because he was from round there, so he could get us into places that he knew.
Yeah. Well, we signed with Bob Wooler from Cavern.
We went with the Cavern agency, yes.
And we went through a number of changes. Tony Lavon dropped out. We got Terry Hines in.
Yes.
And eventually, in '66, we were at the Star Club.
Yeah, but we got rid of Terry Hines left.
Yeah, because he was mad, and we
got Eddie Cave out the Richmond group.
That's right. We won't say anything bad or good about him. And we get him in, and
but he was a great singer, but he had a lot of personal problems.
That's
because
right.
Young men in those days, the pill had only just come along.
That's
blah,
right.
Blah,
He had problems, but he liked much. He didn't like the material we liked.
No, he was more
pop
orientated than us, wasn't he?
Yeah, which we found was a problem we were always having with singers. They never seem to like it.
We were on the right track there to make loads of success and loads of money, you know.
Yeah.
We were just in the wrong place at the wrong time,
Yeah.
and just approaching it from slightly the wrong angle.
Oh, yeah.
I've thought about this in depth.
Just bad luck. But anyway, because I want to get on.
Right?
So, you'd gone, your first band, you were actually playing music which had been written by people like Cannonball Adderley and Eddie Clean Ed Vincent and
T-Bone
yeah,
Walker.
and I think along with myself, we find ourselves slightly marginalised in Liverpool, although we could play. There seemed to be still this sort of pop group thing in Liverpool.
Yes, yes. They
And-
dominated the...
And dominated the playing scene.
yes.
Okay, memorable things, Pete. Do you want to put in the Back in Georgie Fame because no one else could do it? Because that's a cracker, isn't it?
Well, I'd never thought of this. I just thought, like, you know, it's just one of those chance things that happen. But Kenny Parry,
Yeah.
the famous Liverpool pop rock guitarist guy, said it was like a big deal. He was knocked out with the fact that we did that, you know.
Well, I think so at the time. So I'll put that story in the fact
the Georgie Fame
that
story,
they actually rang us when we were at another gig and begged us to come over and back him because his band hadn't turned up in the fog.
That's correct, yes.
And we were the only ones that could do it. And that sort of, I'm going to build that story so it encapsulates
Bill Iden was
the
on
way we
drums.
do. That's right. Now what I'm going to
played
say
Bill
is,
Iden.
and what I was going to say is, this is because the bands from TL's Musicians to the Fix had been built on the rhythm section.
He's right, yeah.
Yeah, that whereas other bands favoured vocal harmony and guitars, our big deal thing was bass and drums.
Right.
It was, wasn't it? I mean, as well as the material,
yeah,
but everybody in the band, me and anybody who played, was acutely conscious of the fact that the control was from the back.
Yes.
And we always had excellent, you and Dave, must have been the rhythm section in Liverpool at the time, you know. Okay, so I'm going to frame that, Pete, okay? I can't go too overboard, you see, but so I've just got to present facts.
Yeah, you've got to be factual.
I can't say, look, they were fucking head and shoulders above anyone.
Yes.
I'm not going to argue with it because I know. That just sounds like the old me. I'm just going to put it carefully. But what we've got now is we're up to about 66, 67. Now, at this time, there's a split coming in the band, at the Fix. I want to remain in a more rhythm and blues orientated frame, but I've got a wife and I've got a child, and I leave the band sometime during the summer. There's a split. Okay, you take the Fix. You take the Fix over.
I took the Fix over, yes.
That's right. Yeah. So this is your first time of running a band.
That's correct, yes.
That's right, which would be about 1967, 66, the last half of 66, 68.
Yes, it would be, yeah.
It was when Steve was born. Steve was born in September.
Good, like you've got a marker there, then. You know the year it was.
That's right. It was when Steve was born, because I remember you had to pick me up in the van, etc., etc. Now, you take the band over, right? So really now we can start the story proper, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
And having had 2 years' experience playing rhythm and blues, you moved the band over to soul.
Soul music, yes.
Oh, okay. And so you're going to have to tell me a bit about how popular the band was after that,
right.
Because I think this is something that should go in as well. So it's 1966 you start a soul band. Okay.
Right. Well, as you know, the band has done that thing that's always constantly referred to with the Beatles, had gone to Hamburg and tightened up. The actual nucleus of the band was tight.
Right.
So we decided that we would play more commercial soul music, which was coming in because discos were coming in, and soul music was the bread and butter music of the disco scene at that time.
We're talking classic soul here.
Still talking classic soul, Stax, all the Atlantic. Tamla Motown was creeping in, but early Tamla, you know, not the type that we know. So we had Eddie Cave singing, and we started doing venues that you would have done with us, I think, like the Sink.
The same venues.
The same kind of venues,
but more soul.
But we started moving into slightly more, what would I say, they're not sophisticated, just maybe slightly older, less studenty like crowd.
Like the Mardi Gras.
The Mardi Gras and the downbeat.
Okay. I'm doing him, yeah, easy.
Well, that's when things started to move for the Fix.
Right.
And we started putting bums on seats.
Right.
And I can remember arguing with the management of the Mardi Gras to get my band more money, saying, listen, they're queuing round the block on a Tuesday night to see us. And they were going, no, they would anyway, and all the usual, but they wouldn't, because the bands that were playing at the Mardi Gras at that time
were the Blue Jeans.
No, the Blue Jeans had gone. They were. It was the Escorts, Cy Tucker and the Friars, the Connoisseurs, groups like that, which the kids just didn't want to know about. Absolutely gone. The Hillsiders. And Kenny Johnson, if you get Kenny Johnson to drink a bottle of scotch, because he was in the Hillsiders at that time, would admit that when the Fix came on the scene, they blew all those bands out the window.
In fact, you were in the biggest band.
At the time.
You were in the biggest live band in Liverpool in the late 60s.
And I tell my son about this, and my wife, and my wife's only 47, so she came slightly later, and they have no... and people, my wife says to clients always, oh, who was the Fix? Never heard of them. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's a forgotten thing, but it was true. The Fix was huge. Anyway, Eddie Cave had to leave.
Right.
Eddie Cave left because he had personal problems. The lad lost a child.
I know, and his wife booked up.
Things went wrong for Eddie.
Yeah,
he was a moody bastard.
Yeah, I know.
A very moody man, and he had a mean streak, but he was all right. He could be, in his own Liverpool way, could be very honourable.
I worked with him again, but I won't. I'll
That's
just
right,
say he had personal problems and left.
He had personal problems, and he was also, you must know, this is important, he was desperately disappointed. He really thought we'd made it when we landed our record contract, because people in London did realise there was something. I mean, it's never been recognised since, but the Fix were making, so it was Chris Curtis had the band signed to a deal with what you could call a major record label. I never approved of the record label, but it was crap anyway. But we were signed to management with Tito Burns, and the lineup at that time was Eddie Cave lead vocals, Dave Irving drums, Ray Renz tenor saxophone, Dick Hansen trumpet, Jeff Workman keyboards, and me on the bass.
And you did Ready Steady Go.
And I got our road manager to play guitar because I was fed up with bloody guitarists.
Yes, okay.
Our Philip says, Dad, did he suffer from, when he saw a guitarist ignore me when I spoke to him outside the music centre, he went, oh Dad, is he a typical lead guitarist? Suffers from arrogance. And I said, well, yes. So I got Denny Swale in, and I had him play like one beat in the bar, 2 beats in the bar, very high, simple, chicky chords, because I'd learnt this by watching this geezer who I really fancied musically. I really copped this guy called Paddy Chambers who was playing with this awful group called the Escorts, and I got Denny Swale playing the same thing, because none of the other lads in the band had anything to do with that kind of thing.
Yes,
Jeff Workman had flirted with it as he would do, because he was a bit of a genius maverick, wasn't he?
Yeah, right.
Yes, and
okay,
so you got Denny on guitar.
And you did Ready Steady Go.
We did Ready Steady Go.
But nothing happened. Nothing didn't move.
And it was devastating. And we just took it in our stride and plodded on, because our work was so amazingly good at that time. I mean, it was amazing. I just couldn't.
But I remember even when I was with the band, when I had the band, it was crazy.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we got Ready Steady Go. Eddie Cave leaves. What happens now? And when does Albie come back?
Albie used to flit in and out because he was always looking for the main chance.
Yeah.
And he was great. He was absolutely great. But Ray used to ask, Ray can come back in the band. Albie's gone. You know what I mean? It was like one of those situations. Yeah. Albie finally settled with the Clayton Squares, who were more charismatic than the Fix, which always annoyed me and bugged me like mad.
Yeah.
And he went off with them, and we plodded on, and the lineup was Ray Renz and Dick Hansen at the front, which was great.
Till when?
This is where it goes. I go a bit haywire now. I'm not sure what happens now.
Well,
I'm coming to the end of my career now with the Fix.
right, but we've got to get Eddie Bedford in, haven't
That's
we?
right, we got Steve Aldo in. This is the dead important turning point. And he took it to even greater success.
A black guy from Liverpool 8.
A black guy from Liverpool.
How do you rate him as a front man?
As a performer, he was unbeatable.
Without peer, wasn't he?
Without peer, he had the full American thing.
Yeah.
Only guy to touch him was Geno Washington.
Yeah.
At that time,
Yeah.
the Americans living in this country with soul bands at that time.
Right.
And he was just tremendous.
So we're talking, because this would be before the in crowd, it would have to be.
Oh, absolutely.
So we're talking of a period in, I was trying to place the in crowd with Terry Phillips around about 70, 71, something like that. So this has got to be around about 68,
16, yeah, because I was at the Chance in 72.
Yeah, right.
And I was with you at the Wookie Hollow before that.
That's right.
And before that, I was with Sinbad. Now, I've tried to date this, and it's bloody impossible.
Okay, so you were with Sinbad in the late 60s.
So anyway, what happened was the Fix started to, fall to bits.
Yeah.
Because of outside influences and pressures.
One of the important things to note here is by this time the Fix was a good working band, but it wasn't going anywhere. Yeah. So it was falling apart. And not falling apart radically.
It was partly my fault because of my conservative attitudes to keep working, keep gigging, and I let a lot of things slip by. But the lads were only young.
Yeah.
And they like to do, they like to live the life, and as all young guys who play music do, even to this day, So, it was difficult. So in the end, I decided it was time to go.
Did you quit?
I quit, yeah.
Okay, at that time, so you quit the band and then Eddie...
And
did it fold?
No, what had happened was, new members had come in.
Yeah.
Paul Pilnick came in on guitar.
Yeah. Zoot?
No, they were only there a fortnight.
10 minutes,
so
okay.
10 minutes wonders, those guys.
Okay,
I wouldn't have them.
Dick
Hansen, excellent, yeah. He was superb to the end.
Right.
I was sorry to leave him.
Right, okay. Had Jeff left by this time? Was Jeff in it?
No, Jeff came into the Victoriana with me. Okay. Dave Beattie offered us a residency.
So this is making sense. So what happened? You quit. Had you had words with Paddy Chambers before you quit?
Yes.
Okay, so
No, Dave Beattie.
Okay, during the end of the time of the Fix, you'd met a lot of people in the Liverpool area who ran clubs and things. And one guy was Dave Beattie, who had a club in the Downbeat, and he came to you presumably with some kind of offer.
Yes.
So he offered you, Dave Irving, Jeff Workman, to form a band with Paddy Chambers and Beryl Marsden. So, can we just get this right for the record? Whose band was this?
It was Paddy Chambers' band.
Why was that?
Because he was the lead singer, arranger, decider of what material was going to be done. He had a track record. He'd had a recording contracts. He'd been a friend of Paul McCartney's. He knew the Beatles. He'd worked for Brian Epstein. He was an ace singer. Right. He had loads of...
So you're saying that
prestige.
Sinbad was his band?
Sinbad was his band.
So did he approach you through Dave? I mean, how does this work?
No, the band was assembled by Dave Beattie.
Okay, so the band was assembled by Dave Beattie, and the guy in charge of musical, the material, etc., was the singer Paddy Chambers. Because I don't want to say he formed the band if he didn't form the band.
No, he didn't. It was Dave Beattie formed
the band. Because that's the truth. I mean, I know you've got a lot of respect for Paddy, but Paddy didn't come round and pick the rhythm section. No. Oh, okay. So it was Dave Beattie. Dave Beattie formed the band, and Paddy Chambers picked his material for his vocal, for him and Beryl. Now who was in the band? It was you three. Was Albie in the band?
Yeah.
By this time Albie was back in the Fix presumably when it folded, or did he come in?
No, I don't know, Bob. You'll have to ask Albie.
Okay.
He just was in the band. I don't know how he got there.
And Albie was in the band, okay.
He must have left the Clayton Squares.
So that first band had
that's right, they folded.
So they folded, so Dave Beattie got this band together.
Yes.
Right, that's fine.
It was a house band.
Right, a house band for a club called the Downbeat.
No, it was for the Downbeat closed down and to open their new club called the Victoriana.
Right.
They got the best band they could get out of the best musicians they thought were in Liverpool.
Right, okay.
At that time.
So it was Beryl Marsden as well, okay. See, because the way it reads, if you read Paddy's obituary, is Paddy's got this band called Sinbad, and you go, nothing is that simple. It's like people say to me, you had the fix, and I went, no, he didn't. I had the fix, then he had the fix. It's not quite that simple.
It wasn't that simple.
But I always put a tag on it by saying, and it was far more successful with Pete than it ever was with me. But, I mean, that's the way it is. So this band was brought together. Now,
yeah, but you must realise I goofed a lot, and I must put it on record.
As much as me.
I goofed. Did you know the fix when I left the fix?
Yeah.
Just before I left, I found out
Yeah.
that the fix was the top band on the university circuit and could command any price.
How did you find that?
I found it out off one of the guys who was an official concert secretary for the Liverpool Students' Union at the time.
What were you planning? Were you getting ripped
He
off?
rang me up and said, Peter, we've just had the votes through, and Fix have come second in top bands, universities around England. You can name your own price.
Oh,
and
dear.
I was shit-faced.
You weren't. You're probably like me at the end, so tired trying to run something.
Yeah.
You just didn't want to know. You know, I know how that feels. You just wanted to get all that.
Money would have.
It would have been nice, but the response
The money would have been upped by 700%.
Yeah. Okay, I'll put that in. Okay, now you get this. Now, I don't want to bring other personalities in. I want to start to concentrate on the fact that you start to develop a career as a bass player, because it must start happening round about this period.
Yeah, I think.
Because you wouldn't see yourself as a career bass player.
No, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely not. Very immature guy.
You just played in the band, didn't you? You just played in the band.
It was like, you tend, as a musician, I mean, there's been better musicians and worse musicians than me. I just drifted along. I met guys in the States who play and drift around till they're like 60, you know what I mean?
Oh, I suppose
that's their life.
You forget, yeah. Well, okay, you get in Sinbad. You tell me a bit about this band as a band.
The band was...
No, we got the personnel, but what
band
kind of
was,
material?
The band was doing material which was more up to, it wasn't as traditional as the Fix, and there was more Tamla Motown orientated because of Paddy Chambers, and it was dead interesting because the boy-girl singing thing, you know, which he started, the pivotal thing was Marvin Gaye, Tammy Terrell type of thing, but they blossomed. I thought they blossomed tremendously. They started doing Inez and Charlie Fox, Mockingbird, and they started doing stuff like that. And then Beryl would do her own thing, which would be more R&B type material.
Yeah.
And Paddy would do more definitive Tamla stuff.
He was very much a romantic Paddy, wasn't he?
Very
as a
much,
singer.
Very much.
He liked the romantic lyric. And,
absolutely.
And
could do it very well.
I was going to say, and because he was superb at doing it when he was on top form, which must have been about then.
And he was.
At that time, he was superlative, wasn't he?
He was. I wouldn't say that. But again, we get back to the Liverpool Divvy thing.
Yeah.
The band, because it didn't rock like the Fix, didn't go as well as the Fix to the audiences.
No.
I mean, the audiences put up with us.
Yeah.
Because the club was great and it was like this happening, cool band.
Yeah.
But I never felt that the band was as appreciated at that time. I never felt it.
Yes. Well, I saw it a couple of times. I remember Jeff doing numbers like the Cats and that. So I thought it was great.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I enjoyed the playing.
But listen to this. This is important. You might even put this in your journal. I don't know. Over the years, the thousands of gigs I've done since, couples have come up to me and said, "Weren't you that bass player with?" And you know what band they always remember?
What?
Not the Fix, Sinbad.
Yeah.
Weren't you? We got engaged watching. We got engaged the weekend we went to see you.
I think that's because it was resonant and
we met watching Sinbad. You were a great group.
Yeah. Well, it was great.
Further on up the road, when I had my own group again, much later called Gambler, with Beryl singing, all those Sinbad fans came out the woodwork to see us. And when you formed the band with me and Paddy and Stephen, there were Sinbad fans used to turn up. or half a dozen, 2 or 3 here and there,
Yeah.
at gigs then.
And they would remember. It's like with being with Albie now. If you go out with Albie, they go supercharged.
Yes,
Had
right.
a great time. That's
Yes,
what
they
always say.
remember. Well,
I think you know what that's got to do with. Oh, maybe we can endorse this between us. Perhaps it's got something to do with the residency of being a good band.
yes, but I don't feel as if everyone went overboard about it.
No, but
they never
because
do about a house band.
because it was a good band, enough people over the period would go, it's good, I like them. They might go crazy.
But it was something you look back on with affection.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Because it's very hard to be in a house band.
Yeah, right.
I've done lots of house bands.
Would you say at this point that, from a playing point of view, this was more demanding than what you'd done before?
Yes.
Or,
Oh yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Paddy would be
absolutely.
Was it because of the insistence of the way it was played? Or?
Oh yes, absolutely. It was very
Well,
for me personally. I got on well with Paddy. Initially, I didn't think I would because he was so demanding of me.
Yeah, right.
But like his wife has said to me since, he always loved your bass playing more than anyone else's he ever played with.
Yeah.
I was. Gazza always said I was diligent. One of my.
Yeah. I've always described you as that.
And he said.
I've always said, Pete, if you get Pete in, the job's be done right.
I loved working with Paddy, and I would go and stick my head in a hi-fi speaker for 3 hours to get, because Cop and Jameson at that time was so difficult because the man was streets ahead with his bass lines. They were just like, there would be flurries of notes which wouldn't sound like a big handful of notes. It would be wonderful, and you go, what's he doing there? What is he doing? Because you must realise, to come back to that production thing again, you couldn't really. And like Paddy turned me on to the Temptations, Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, Marvin Gaye, and all those wonderful things that Jameson did.
Yeah, right.
And
it was a dream gig, wasn't it? Really?
It was great, yeah. And I was playing all these.
Anybody
lines.
in the band having problems with this, being told what to do? Was it?
Yeah, the other guys didn't have to really. As long as I did what I was told.
Yeah.
Dave Irving was a natural. I mean, he's just absolute bloody natural, really. Yeah. I mean, even if he didn't follow the exact drum, which what the lesser drummers had to go rum, back, bum, Dave Irving never had to do that. The feel was
there.
Innate. It was innate.
Yeah.
And so he had no problem with it. But I had to work hard, and that was where when I joined the Chants later, it all came together. And
okay, well, let's get to the end of this.
Right.
So Sinbad's doing, and you're with the band while it's there at the Victoriana.
Yes.
Did you stay till the end of the
Yes.
Okay, the Victoriana. Now, this would be... Did you go in a Chance after this? Or
I don't know what happened there. I don't know how it had finished up. Do you know? I should imagine Dave Beatty would tell you, he probably just sacked us. Or...
Well, I think I asked you over.
I remember a wonderful evening. I mean, I remember bad times, mate, but I don't want to... I've got this thing in my head with a lot of people have died around me recently, and I'm going to be positive. I mean, I want to be up and positive. And I'm starting to remember good times instead of bad times, right?
Good.
And one of the good times I remember was meeting you lot in town. And you took me back to this club called the Rookie Hollow, which you had discovered.
Yeah.
And the manager had discovered you selling crisps and went, right, I'm going to make you a manager because obviously a guy with your kind of... Well, coffee was it? Yeah, obviously a guy with your acumen's got to be.
Yeah. I was manager at that time.
Yeah, you were the manager.
Now,
and you got us in
right
house
now.
Band.
Okay, so where does the Chance fit? That must have been after.
After.
Okay, so you're at the Sinbad. By this time we meet up again. I'm running a big nightclub.
You're running a big nightclub,
and I go.
Hey, I want my own house band.
The boss wants a band.
Yes.
Do you fancy it?
Yeah, and I said to right.
And you suggested Paddy. The first band was Bernie Wenton, wasn't it?
It was Bernie Wenton, you.
Yeah.
Because you used to leave your job to come and play
the
organ.
I couldn't wait to leave the job to have a blow.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. You used to open with Time is Tight. Yeah. You were Booker T, right?
Right.
It was you. Do you want this lineup or are you okay?
No, I'm okay.
Okay.
So you get
just don't waste time and move on.
And within a short time,
the band changes.
The band changes. Paddy comes in.
And it's ended up a trio.
That's right. Because Terry Phillips wants me off the stage. He wants me running the club. So, You're now playing in the trio.
He's right.
But there's a very significant change takes place here, I think.
Yes.
The drummer from the Wookie, Dave Joseph, stands in, and you're both knocked out with him. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
So this
he
guy
takes over from Dave Irving.
So he takes over from Dave Irving,
who's
who
moved on
to. He moved on to what was he called?
Sad Cafe?
Sad Cafe.
Oh, no, this is a long time before Sad Cafe.
Well, whatever. He moved on
He
eventually.
moved on to one of his staff.
Eventually, yeah. Okay, he moved out. Dave Joseph moves in. You two are now. Let's leave Paddy out of it. This is the first time then you played with what we would call a pro dotter.
A pro dotter, yes.
Somebody who plays Bax Cabaret has got this eclectic musical career, playing with everybody,
and has got a wonderful knowledge of other types of
music, right? And
Latin American,
and is knocked out with what you and Paddy are doing.
Yes.
He enjoys it.
He's
having a blow.
Yes.
So
it's
it's almost a mutual appreciation society.
Yes.
Paddy's pleased because he's got like a trio again, and it's working good. You're pleased now. Is this when you, as a bass player, make a decision? Because I seem to remember around about this time that the acoustic bass
said to me, right, you better go and get yourself a bit of an education. Once again, you popped up with that. Another thing, and said, there's a school of music. So I signed up to the School of Music,
right?
the Mate School of Music.
Is that right?
And I went religiously every Saturday morning and learned to read.
Right.
I didn't use it for any other purpose. What a fool.
Yeah.
Because anyone else who'd put the time in that I'd put in would have come out with a diploma. I just came out, I got all those little...
Associate board thing.
Yeah, I got all them.
Yeah.
But I came out with the one thing I wanted to do. Still to this day, I couldn't read a James Jameson bass line.
No.
Cold. But I can read...
Yeah.
50% of anything that's put down for bass players, do you know what I mean? Which is good enough for me to make
a living.
I could be better, but I'm pretty alright.
Okay, so it's the early 70s. What happens now? I mean, do you start playing cabaret?
As soon as I finished the 3-year course that I did at the Mate, I said goodbye to the Wookie Hollow.
Right.
Paddy at that time had left to do your job. He'd left, and I'd got Lance and Jill in.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
You don't want to know about Lance and Jill?
No, because... you were playing with them?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
I got them in.
Okay. You got Lance Railton... Paddy had left. You got Lance Railton and Jill... What's her name?
Martin.
Jill Martin in.
And everyone said to me, you can't do this, he'll let you down. And he never let me down once.
Right.
Not
I'll
once.
put that in.
Please know that anyone who says Lance Railton was unreliable, he never let Pete Newton down once.
Okay. Well, I knew he was a completely different person than most people like you. I knew him like you did.
And most guys have let me down one stage or another.
Okay. Right. Okay. Now, but you leave the Wookie Hollow. Yeah.
I left
after this
because Chance had asked me
to go
with them
on the road.
And I was on the road for a year with the Chance.
So this would be the early 70s?
Yeah.
Okay.
71, 72.
Okay, you're on the road. What was this like?
Fantastic.
Enjoyed it?
I loved it.
Yeah.
Brendan hated it. I loved it.
I wouldn't put that in, Brendan hated it. You loved it.
Well, Brendan and I mean, Brendan's an intellectual bloody virtuoso of the classical guitar. Would he love such a gig, you know what I mean? But he said, oh no, those guys ripping me off and all that. But maybe they did rip me off, I don't know. Leslie says, you know what, Peter, sometimes they didn't have a penny in their pocket and they always paid you wages, the musicians' wages.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, now I got on, I'm still dead good mates with all those guys in that band. Right. Those 5 black singers, I regard as...
So this is Leslie, so this is Joey Ankara.
Joey Ankara.
Nat.
Edmund Ankara. Nat Smeeder. Alan Harding. And... who else? And Eddie Amu. The real thing.
Okay, so this is the Chance, and these presumably at this time were a real hot cabaret.
God, tell me about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were a hot cabaret soul. They were a soul act, and they were doing the Temptations songbook, which for me, I love the Temps more than anything.
So yeah.
And they were doing the Temptations and the OJs and they asked me to join because they knew of me as a bass player and that, and it just was wonderful. It was just wonderful, and I went on top cabaret rooms all around the country with them, with the trio, Steffi on drums and Phil on guitar, just the three of us.
Okay, so who was the MD?
The MD was Eddie Amu.
Okay, so
wonderful musician.
Good. Okay, I'll put that in. Phil Loughlin on guitar.
Phil Loughlin, wonderful.
And an excellent Liverpool bass player, but a mysterious man, Seffi.
Seffi on drums.
Yeah. Good feel, great feel.
Oh, tremendous, yeah.
Tremendous.
Ali G. Have you ever watched Ali G?
Yeah.
My son loves a guy called Ali G.
I've got
Dead
videos.
funny.
It's Seffi?
Seffi?
Yes, of course I know Seffi, yeah.
It's Seffi to a T.
Yeah. So that was a real smoky trio. Really.
Oh, loved it. Yeah, absolutely wonderful.
Between you and me, I've played with Loco on a number of occasions. I find him a little bit tight.
Yes.
But very,
very musical is the word. Yeah.
He's a country western player.
Yeah,
you know.
but what skill? Yeah.
He's a skillful player. Yeah. Okay, so you're doing that for a year, and it's good. Now, of course, you're in a position now where if you've got to learn a tune, you've got a couple of skills going on now. You can buy the part or analyse it a bit better.
Yeah, I could do if I wanted to.
You were getting more confidence as a musician.
Yeah,
okay.
But I always, right up until a few years, I always copped records. I always got me material that I had to go from the record.
Right.
I've always been.
So you've got good aural skills. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, well,
okay.
I have up to a point. I was looking for a chord tonight. I couldn't find it, but I never mind. Yeah.
So you've got you're with the chance for a year, and that's good. I mean, what I'll do is
that was fantastic. I love that.
If you've got any anecdotal material, we can put it in
on later. Well, you can say to me, "Tell me about the chance. Tell me about."
Do you want to put anything in it? Have you got any stories or anything like that?
Yes.
Okay. So we put them in later on. Okay. So we've got the chance. And then after that, what? It's early.
Right. Well, I got fed up. I loved being with the Chance. Musically, it was tremendous. But they were obviously like the Liverpool. Do you know the Liverpool 8 thing? Where they brought in a conga player who was complete Liverpool 8.
Yeah.
You know, and
yeah.
Steffi got a bit of Liverpool 88ish, and I got offered a job again.
Yeah.
And it was to go away to sea, and I went, wow.
Yeah.
What do I do? Well, you read music, you
yeah.
play from charts, you back people, you play standards, you play soul music, you can do whatever you want. If there's any songs you want to do, we'll play them. All right. And I joined this band.
Okay.
It was by a musician who will go down as one of my great influences on my life, Jackie Dunn, a wonderful piano player.
Jackie
and it was his band.
Yeah.
And it was me and him from Liverpool,
yeah.
and a drummer from Hull,
yeah.
and a guitarist from Stoke.
And what was this? What was the sea cruise? Where did you go?
The sea cruise was, we joined a ship somewhere on the east coast of England, and we sailed across the Atlantic to America and started sailing around the Caribbean. We did that.
What a crappy job.
Well, it was very good, actually. I really loved it.
What a crappy job.
While I was doing that, I then got transferred after 5 months. I got transferred to another ship, and I sailed. It sounds crappy compared to the Caribbean cruises, but it wasn't. It sounds crappy, but it was great because it put me right in the States, and that was when I worked from on a ferry boat, which sailed from Portland, Maine.
Yeah.
To Halifax, Nova Scotia, backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. So I was in Canada one day, in America the next, but I had all my leave that I used to a lot, I mean, so many days at sea, you get so much leave.
That's right.
And I used to spend all my leave in America, and I used to go down. And I've been to New York, but I never really had the time to really dig New York like I would have liked to. So I could only ever get to Boston, Massachusetts, and I loved it, I saw people like Gary Peacock, Stevie Wonder, all great jazz and rock musicians. And
were you playing with American musicians on these boats?
Yes, I did play with Americans, and it was wonderful. And
how do you feel about your bass players? Is it getting round?
Yes,
Are you getting more experience?
Yes.
Are you back in cabaret now?
Yeah.
So this is really on these.
I'm backing American cabaret,
which is a whole lot different from British cabaret.
Black Americans I was backing.
Yeah. What was that like as an experience?
Tremendous
experience. Yeah.
Tremendous experience.
Do you feel that you were appreciated or
Oh, right,
tolerated or what?
Oh, no, I
Appreciated.
felt- well, it was appreciated because you must realise in those days that the reading jobs were still going to the middle-aged men because the younger guys coming up weren't so bothered.
Right.
And the good readers were all fellas like who were into jazz and wouldn't
And
do
who
a
were you
bloody
as
gig
Big
like
Soul
this.
and Temptations?
Yes,
fan?
so I was hitting them with all these licks and it was going down very well, particularly with Jackie Dunn.
I bet it was.
I had the, I'll never forget, I had the band playing Donny Hathaway thing, you know. And they were like trying, and I had to go up in the afternoon and rehearse with the drummer to try and get her to play the right feel. You know, the poor drummer used to be going airless trying to get onto this.
Right. Oh, the ghetto. Yeah.
The ghetto, we couldn't get it.
Right. So, how long, Pete? On the boat?
That's 7 months.
About 7 months. Okay.